Superman Red Son is a 2020 American direct-to-video animated superhero film. It focuses on the DC Comics character Superman. It is the 37th installment in the DC Universe animated original movie series. The film is based on the 2003 comic book miniseries of the same name, which was written by Mark Millar and penciled by Dave Johnson, Andrew Robinson, Walden Wong, and Killian Plunkett. The film was released digitally on February 25th, 2020, and the Blu-ray was released March 17th, 2020. The film was directed by Sam Liu, and the screenplay was written by J.M. DeMatteis, who was famous for one of the great Spider-Man story arcs titled Kraven's Last Hunt. The production company was Warner Brothers Animation, and the distributor was HBO Max. The film earned $601,000 from domestic DVD sales and $1.4 million from domestic Blu-ray sales, bringing the total home video earnings to just over $2 million. The Russian media reception was critical initially. TV channel Russia 24, Alexei Kazakov and Anastasia Ivanova felt that the video was Russophobic hysteria, further stating that if Russia had not been so interesting, then there would have been no Red Son. In the program Time Will Tell, the film adaptation was called an element of a serious information war against Russia, the purpose of which is to form the image of the enemy. Anatoly Khrushchev concluded, "Comics are evil, literature only." The production was driven by James Tucker, who had expressed interest in making the animated movie adaptation of the Red Son comic book miniseries for the DC animated universe. The project was then considered by Warner Brothers, and then on January 8th, 2019, it was announced that a direct-to-video film adaptation of the comic was in development. Jason Isaacs does the voice of Superman. He is known for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in 2002. Amy Acker does the voice of Lois Lane. She is from The Cabin in the Woods, if you remember that great horror film, and Angel. Dietrich Bader is doing the voice of Lex Luthor, and he is from Office Space and Napoleon Dynamite. Some interesting casting here. And we have Vanessa Marshall doing the voice of Wonder Woman, a crucial character in this. The Trinity is in this story. And Vanessa has done voice work before. She was in Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, Star Wars Rebels, and Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox. Phil Morris does the voice of James Olsen, and he is known for Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And the great Paul Williams does the voice of Brainiac. He is known from The Phantom of the Paradise, the Brian De Palma film, 1974. Superman Red Son is an Elseworlds story, which means that it falls outside of the DC and Superman continuity. It is not part of the DC Universe canon. In this story, Superman as a baby lands in Soviet Russia instead of in Smallville, Kansas. Superman is raised in the Soviet Union and quickly becomes the icon and champion of his country, inspiring fear in the United States. The US quickly hires scientist Lex Luthor to create their own Superman to counteract Russia's. Superman, meanwhile, makes his presence known in America, saving Luthor's wife, Lois Lane, and making an instant connection with her. Luthor successfully makes his own imperfect Superman and unleashes him, which turns out to be a terrific battle. Superman created by Lex Luthor is known as Superior Man, and he is very much like Bizarro, if you guys remember him from the 80s animation and the comic books. This iteration of Superman, though, is very unstable. His X-ray vision releases deadly radiation, and he finally self-destructs in battle. Luthor also creates a number of other villains to send at Superman, none of which are successful. Superman's personal computer system is Brainiac, who encourages him to take violent action against others before they attack him. When America releases a squad of Green Lanterns against Superman, Superman quickly defeats them by moving faster and outwitting them, leading to the final battle where Superman now fights his own computer system, Brainiac. And we come to the conclusion of the story. The first issue of Superman Red Sun appeared in June of 2003. Stalin appears in the comic book as Superman works for the USSR government and works under Stalin's leadership. Stalin in Russian actually means steel man, or more appropriately, Man of Steel, which is actually one of Superman's nicknames. A character in the story actually confronts Superman and tells him, "You're the opposite of Marxist doctrine, living proof that all men aren't created equal," pointing out the paradox and the contradiction of the actual concept of the story. So the comic book itself is self-reflective, making a commentary on itself, which is very interesting. The second issue of the 3-issue miniseries came out on July of 2003. The Trinity begins to show up in this book, starting with Batman. He is the leader of the Resistance, as Batman is somewhat of a terrorist trying to take Superman down. We then also have Wonder Woman show up. Wonder Woman's chest plate traditionally bears an eagle, which in Greco-Roman mythology represents the god king Zeus. In this story, it bears a double-headed eagle, as you see here, a symbol of Roman mythology which eventually passed down the years to become a Russian national symbol. The final issue of the 3-issue miniseries came out in August of 2003. Pictured here, you can probably pick up these books on eBay. Maybe the first one has a bit of value. It might be about $80, and the other two might be about $50 a piece.
So what did I think of Superman Red Sun? I thought it was terrific. I mean, this has got to be up there with like one of the best Superman films out there. It's a Superman story, and we weren't even sure who the protagonist was, even halfway through. I was like, what's going on here? And then at the very end, it felt like the protagonist was Lex Luthor. Like that Superman was the antagonist, or was simply a character reacting throughout the whole story to a plan set in motion by Lex Luthor. And every time Superman does something, they cut to Lex Luthor on a chessboard, like as if Superman is his pawn, and he's making him do things or react the way he wants him to. And he has an endgame in mind. And at the very end of the movie, when everything is accomplished and falls in the favor of Lex Luthor, you see him on a chessboard saying, "Checkmate, Superman," as if finally he accomplished everything he wanted to and had manipulated Superman like a pawn. If you don't know the concept of the story, it's pretty terrific. Instead of instead of Superman landing in Smallville in the U.S., he lands in the USSR. He lands in the Ukraine. And he becomes the Superman for Russia, for the USSR, and for their point of view, and for the people, you know, like the Soviet Republic. So he also has a, like a Lana Lang in Smallville. He has a Svetlana in the Ukraine when he's growing up in his village. So there's even a Svetlana, like a Lana. It's pretty cool. And Lois Lane and Lex are back in the U.S., and they're a couple. So it's done very well. And I loved all the... it didn't just take that one concept and beat it into the ground. It went to multiple layers of that concept. They had him see Stalin is actually in it, and he confronts Stalin with the ends don't justify the means. Like the way he's going about this end goal, what seems the end goal of equality for all men. It seems admirable, but the way he's going about it, I mean, he's hurting so many people. He's putting people in prison camps. And Superman sees that might does not make right, and that the ends don't necessarily justify the means, that you shouldn't do it that way. He's learning the process of everything that's somewhat wrong with imposing a communist template on a large amount of people. When he eventually takes over in Russia, he becomes a leader of the USSR. Unlike in the American comics, in our Earth, in our world, in our universe, he serves our justice system, and he's just a superhero in our justice system. He doesn't take over and becomes a leader. Whereas in America, Superman never takes over. He serves the justice system, which is just, you know, kind of a better idea. They even have a wonderful metaphor when he fights Brainiac. There's a wonderful metaphor for the shrunken Stalingrad is in a miniature. Stalingrad gets shrunk to like a miniature city. It's like a snow globe. And there's even the metaphor that that's what communism is. It's people at the top, the elite, looking down on people as if they're miniatures and controlling their every move, thinking that they're doing the right thing and creating a utopia. Instead of letting people move freely about and choosing what they want to do, choosing how they want to live, making their own decisions, making their own mistakes. That's the way it should be, not your perception of what a utopia should be or how perfection should be achieved by putting a template on people and forcing them into this communist type of state. So I think there's multiple ideas behind the story. Now, I don't know if Mark Millar, the guy who wrote the comic book with the concept, I think he's Irish, because I was saying if he was Scottish, this is like an Adam Smith like rebuttal to like Karl Marx. Like this is like a free capitalism rebuttal to a lot of these socialist countries. It's done really well. And also the fight scenes are just terrific. They're dynamite. When Superman fights Batman, very much like the Dark Knight, and he fights Wonder Woman, and when he fights the Green Lantern Corps, it's just exceptional. It's one of the best fight scenes. In the Green Lantern Corps is Guy Gardner and Hal Jordan, and there's like 20 of them, and it's just a great fight. And also when he fights Brainiac, that's also an interesting fight. And he also Lex Luthor has the suit on. He fights him also. He's got the skeleton suit on. And in this world, Batman seems like to be on the right side of intellect, the right idea, the right concept. He's like a terrorist in this world, and he's fighting to take down Superman. But he actually has the right idea that people are being forced beyond their own free will to do something that the elites or the people at the top think is correct. And Batman is fighting against that. Batman's always so clever that he's got all these different scenarios, plan A, plan B, plan C, and it's a great battle. And there's also, there was a lot of also the template or the format of the story seemed to be very much like the 70s Richard Donner film. It had a lot of moments in that tipped the hat to that. There's a moment where Superman meets Lois on her balcony. Surprisingly, he flies over and she's smoking. Oh, smoking isn't good for you. And I remember that in the 70s movie where she was smoking and he says smoking isn't good. Like a tip of the hat to the 70s movie. And Superman floating gives a little speech to the people. I know you fear me because I'm from the USSR. It had a really good perspective shift that made you think. And all these different layers that were really clever. So if you haven't seen it, definitely check this one out. This one is super clever. And Red Sun is the lights that Batman traps a Superman into a room where he has lights from the red sun of Krypton. And the red sun lights make Superman weak. So he puts those lights on in a room, and they're red sun lights. So even the meaning of the story, the title, had different layers, had different meanings in it, which was pretty clever. Superman Red Sun, red as in the communist flag or the Communist Party, but also his weakness. It was done really well, and his suit looked terrific with the sickle on it. The hammer and the sickle on Superman's suit looked really great, and Wonder Woman's suit looked really good too. The movie moves at a really fast pace. It's like an hour and 20 minutes and just flies by. Now the comic has a different ending. Some people were a little bit, I guess, annoyed that the comic book had a different ending, and the movie had a more realistic ending, where the comic book had a final twist. It had a final Twilight Zone kind of a twist, where Lex Luthor was really in control the whole time. But it's okay. I think both little stories work. I think the comic book works, and the movie version works. So I think both of them are okay, and the choice to make it more realistic and not to do with any time machine elements or time jumping elements, it's not a bad decision to have that last final twist removed. But some people feel that the movie ended on a low note. It was a lot of great fights, momentum, climax, and then the final scene was a little bit, maybe a little bit of the air coming out of the balloon. It wasn't so climactic, but I thought it worked. But I can see why you'd want it to end on another twist, which is somewhat kind of cool. Now, Brainiac is a great representation of all the things wrong with overanalyzing, overthinking, or the problem and the dead end of rationalization. You can over-rationalize yourself into a corner if you're overthinking. If everything is a math equation and you're treating people like they're a math equation, instead of people having an emotional and a spiritual depth, not just a bunch of numbers. If these people have this material objects all the same, then people will be equal. So Brainiac, as a representation of the mind, over-rationalizes everything, realizing that he can't beat Superman. He lets Superman win. And then he manipulates Superman to think that he's won. And Superman becomes a servant of Brainiac, like a servant of the state, thinking he's doing the right thing and thinking that he's in control. Very much like communism. Like, you think you're working for the state. You think you're in control and you're in line with the state, but actually the state's in control. Until the very end, you find out that Brainiac was pretending. And Superman wasn't in control. He was Brainiac's puppet. He was like on a leash. He was like being controlled on strings. So that metaphor was also terrific. It was great. And we also have Lex Luthor in this universe also creates a Superman very similar to a Doomsday. Like, he gets the DNA of the alien ship that crashed and makes a character, Superior Man. And this is just another great idea and a great fight scene, a terrific fight scene, where Superior Man, the US made Superman, is fighting the Russian Superman, and it's fantastic. It's another great, there's a lot of great fight scenes, a lot of action in this thing. It also, there were some scenes that reminded me of The Boys. If you guys are watching that show, The Boys, which is terrific. He's sitting down with the Chinese ambassador. Superman is in charge of Russia, and he's sitting down with a Chinese ambassador, and he's saying, I've known you for 7 years now. Why are you always so nervous around me? And the Chinese ambassador is like, I'm scared of you. Like, because Superman is so powerful. It reminded me a lot of Homelander in The Boys, if you guys are watching that, where being around that guy, every situation is so tense. Like, he could just laser beam you with his eyes and like kill you any second. And the Chinese ambassador having dinner with Superman was like that. He's like very nervous to be around him. And it's understandable. Like, the guy is like an alien with all these powers. It's unbelievable. So, I was going to go by that, the comic shop, but it's closed. Comic shop closed, wow. It's only, what was it, 5:30? Each obstacle he went up against, he learned something. He went up against Stalin. Then he went up against Stalin, and he learned a lesson. Might doesn't make right, or the ends don't justify the means. He went up against Brainiac and learned about rationalization could put you down a dead end. Overly thinking something and just making everything a computer or a math equation is not the way the world works. When he goes up against Wonder Woman, he learns a lesson. When he goes up against Batman, he learns that some people, you'll never be able to conquer them. Some people. He's got a plan B. So I love the metaphors and the symbols that were laced throughout. I thought it was really well done. So let me know if you guys have seen this, what you think of this, because this has got to be like one of the best Superman movies out there. It's got to be like top 5. This and maybe All-Star Superman, of course. The 70s Richard Donner Superman. And some of the newer DCU Supermans were pretty good, actually. Like, I don't know yet about my feelings on Superman Returns or Batman v Superman. I kind of like them, actually. I don't know where I would place them, though, in a pecking order. But let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of this. And I just want to give my thoughts on the film. How it impacted me. You know, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was terrific. You know, 1 to 10, this is like a hard 9. This is just a great movie with a great concept executed really, really well.
You think you're going to stop me, Batman?
What now?
Now I save the world.